Hi everyone and welcome to this webinar about career and collaboration together with GKN, hosted by us at University West. My name is Ebba Thorolsen and I work at the International Office. And soon I will introduce you to Alexander Jenhall, Business Analyst at GKN, and Amanda Dalstam, Director Engineering and IT at GKN. But first I want to introduce you to some basic background that is relevant for this webinar. And I would also like to tell you to ask any questions you have in the Q&A, because I also have a colleague with me who are able to answer questions during the webinar. But first, we will also start with some presentations, and in the end, any relevant questions regarding GKN and the collaboration between the university and GKN, we will talk about in the end, in the Q&A session. So just a reminder, you can ask questions anytime, and we will bring them up in the end or answer them directly in the chat. So for some background, work integrated learning is the philosophy behind University West, and it's basically the belief that knowledge is created everywhere, not only within the walls of academia. So it's like together with the outside world, businesses, industry, and civil society, that the best type of knowledge is created and also shared. And that's the way we can actually create change and create a better world out there. So through this type of collaboration, our education, of course, gets a lot better, but also our research and all the projects we do at the university. So we have many partners within society, where 7 of these are strategic partners. GKN, of course, is one of these partners. And these are a bit more longer relationships that develop during a lot of time, and we also share the same values. So, as I mentioned, one of these strategic partners is GKN. Let's see if I can change the slide. So there we go. So GKN and University West have a strategic partnership. So this is collaboration that includes education collaboration, research and development, also skills development. Mainly, the focus on the research collaboration is within sustainable manufacturing processes and digitalization. And GKN is one of our most important industry collaboration partners. And we've had collaborations with GKN since the 90s, when University West was started. Many of these collaborations are regarding, of course, our Department of Engineering Science, but they also stretch to all parts of the university. One of these parts is the Production Technology Center. So this is a laboratory where it's an important arena for collaboration for our students to work practically, to gain practical knowledge, but also to meet industry, because at the Production Technology Center, a lot of companies also do business. So, for example, GKN as well. And GKN is also a big part about a big partner when we develop programs, not only within the engineering department, also within our School of Business Economics and IT, and as I mentioned, many other parts of the university. So close collaboration is kind of like the basics when it comes to GKN and University West. So with that, I would like to introduce Amanda Dalstam and Alexander Jenhall. Välkommen.
Thank you. So, hi everyone. Thanks, Abba. Great to be here. From GKN, it's very important to work with the local university and be able to take use of the knowledge and experience from the university in our production and in our technology work. I will let Amanda introduce herself very soon, but my name is Alex. I am born and raised outside of Trollhättan. Been with GKN since 2013 through the college and apprentice program, but rejoined after my studies in 2021 as part of the global grad program. So who are you, Amanda?
Well, who am I? Good question. So my name is Amanda Dalstam, and I'm currently the Director for Engineering IT, which means that me and my teams, we supply digital solutions for engineering community and operations, meaning manufacturing, across the world. And I joined GKN for approximately 7 years as a global graduate. And I've been doing lots of stuff, but we will talk about that later, I think. But with that, we would like to start with introducing who we are as a company and what we do. And as our name might reveal, we're in the aerospace business, meaning that we're active within aircraft and spacecraft. And we are a global company that has 32 manufacturing locations across the world, which is super exciting. We're about 16,000 people globally. We have 4 research centers, whereas one is here in Sweden and in Trollhättan. And we're active on more than 100,000 flights a day. So the chance that you've been flying with our products is really, really high. And speaking about the world, so currently we are in Sweden and we are the headquarters for our business division, and we will talk more about that later. And I usually work the most with the US, Malaysia, India, and Norway. But globally, you can reach everybody in our company. And we're basically located where we have either our customers or where we have big hubs for aircrafts. And our vision as a company is to be the most trusted and sustainable partner in the sky. And to us, this means a lot. Trust is, of course, about being able to travel with your beloved ones, your family, to be able to travel safely across the world. Because that's what we do. We do things that fly, and we want to make sure that people will come to their destination safe and efficiently. And sustainable, of course, we view environment as one of our biggest pillars, but we also work incredibly close with the society across our sites. So here in Trollhättan, for example, we are partners with the local university, and we also support a lot of sports clubs. We are part of the society, making sure that we take a step further each time we do something together. And when it comes to sustainable environment, of course, we know that the pattern that we've been using for flying historically is not something we can keep doing. The world is growing, the fleet is growing, but we also have technologies that can make us fly further, faster, and greener. So that's what we all strive for, to be able to keep flying, keep connecting people, but make sure that we do it in a green way. And first of all, we are active in 3 core markets. So the first one is civil airframe, meaning that we build large structures, for example, wings, the aircraft body. The second one is engines, where myself and Alex are active. So that's, of course, the most interesting one. And as the names reveal, we do a lot of products that you can find in the engine at the aircraft and also in rockets. And then we have defense airframe, and that is mostly located in the US. It's the aircraft body for military jets. And now Alex will guide you through the specifics, what we do.
So, as Amanda mentioned, we are on board more than 100,000 flights every day. Typically, you'll find the engine structures and our parts on civil aircraft with 100 or 80 or more passengers. So if you're flying from Sweden out to some hub in Europe, you will probably find our parts in the engine. We make mainly engine structures, blades and vanes, which is the rotating parts, and shafts and cases. Structures is kind of a broad name, but most of what we do is large parts that connect the engine to the airframe, so that all this power that is produced within the engine is transferred to the aircraft and making sure that that huge bulk of metal can get flying. We're also the OEM for the JAS Gripen engine, RM12, which is the Swedish fighter jet, and some other countries as well, where we are responsible for the whole value chain from engine, maintenance, and making sure that the Air Force can fly when they want to and where they want to. In our defense business and our civil business, we do transparencies, which is canopies or windshields for civil and military aircraft. We also do electrical installations, so wiring and things like that, that makes the plane do what the pilot wants it to do. And we also do major structural assemblies, which is wings and bodies and fuselages for for the aircraft. Within engines and in Sweden, we are also partnering on the Ariane program, which is the European space launcher. We've been part of the program since the beginning of the program. All of the Ariane rockets that have been launched, we've been part of. We mainly do some of the fuel pumps and also the nozzle, which is the huge exhaust pipe that you see at the bottom. So when all that smoke is going off before the rocket launches, that's where our parts sit. It is a great opportunity for us to try new technologies, new materials. It's an extremely stressful environment being in space with huge temperature changes, and therefore it's great for us to be able to try new stuff and then be able to transfer that to the civil market and to the aircraft engines. So where did we start? Well, in the 1930s, a company then called NOAB, which is sort of if you're from Trollhättan, you know what it is, got a request from the Air Force to build an aircraft engine for the Swedish fighter. And since then, we have been part of every engine and aircraft through time and continue to support the Air Force with the engines for their fighter jets. Sometime, I think in the 80s and 90s, we transferred that knowledge towards the civil market, and since then it has grown. So now, today, we mainly do civil aircraft engine parts, but we keep true to the heritage and keep supporting the Air Force now and for the future as well. So looking at the future, today we're using technologies together with University West for automation and production technology to enhance the production and make sure that we can make safe and quality products more efficient, more cost effective, and using less material. For the future, we are looking to use new technologies such as additive manufacturing and 3D printing to enable new sort of capabilities for the products and be able to do new engine structures that we couldn't do before with traditional casting and forging. And into the future, we're looking at new types of engines, new fuels, new materials to be able to support the airframers, Airbus and Boeing and such, to be able to create new types of aircrafts that can fly longer and without harming the environment. Ebba mentioned the PTC here in Trollhättan, which is part of our global technology center for engines. This is where we are really looking at the future, and we're part of research projects together with local universities to be able to try out new technologies and find new technologies to implement into our business. We're looking into new types of structures, how to make them in the future. We're looking into composites, how can we use them to become more effective, adaptable machining. For instance, the machines can understand what's going on and adapt so that the product comes out with the correct quality. Additive manufacturing, 3D printing, flexible automation, being able to have less people run more machines more effectively so that we can produce after hours and such. And I'd say one of the most recent business areas we're working on is additive manufacturing. So I'll let Amanda introduce Material Solutions.
Yes, so this is our newest addition to engines. So what we mean with additive manufacturing is basically large-scale 3D printing. And then we use additive fabrication, which is another complicated word. So what that means is basically that we take our big products, think of them like a huge circle of metal, we slice them up like cakes, and then we weld them back together so we can make smaller pieces in 3D printers and then stitch them back together to make sure that we have a better quality and a better product than we had from the beginning. So we're just launching a new factory here in Trollhättan. And it's basically all because that we want to insource supply chain. And I think you've all heard about the challenges that we have globally with supply chain and the demand for different rare metals. And when we do manufacturing, we usually use titanium or nickel alloys, which is pretty hard to get. They're usually stuck in countries that is hard to work with, which makes us want to insource this capability to make sure that we can use as eco-friendly processes as possible, and also make sure that we have the right terms and conditions for everything that we do. And one of our products that is actually flying right now is what we call a fan case mount ring. So when you enter the aircraft, you will see the big fan structures, and it has a big plastic case around it. Underneath, that's where our products come into play. So here you'll find the fan case mount ring. It's approximately 2 meters in diameter, so it's a pretty huge product. And when we say 3D printing, we don't mean something you can put on your table. It's something equal to size of a 3-bed apartment. So it's huge. So what we use is basically a robotic arm that we supply with a very powerful laser that can melt a wire of titanium. And with this, we're able to build up the material instead of removing it, which we do with a traditional manufacturing process. So here in the picture, you can actually see a cross-section of the full product. So the traditional forging is approximately about 400 kilos of titanium that we're buying. And then we're putting it into our machines. We're removing material to get to the final shape. And then we ship it to the customer, and then it weighs approximately 40 kilos. And you notice this is a pretty big ratio of scrap. And of course, today, we do reuse the scrap. We melt it, it goes into the process again. But it's still a lot of energy that needs to be used to melt it and remove the material. So now we use a much slimmer ring when we start the product. It's the middle section highlighted in green in the picture. And then with our additive manufacturing processes, we're adding the material to build it up instead. And with this, we can already save 80% of the material, which is also 80% of the carbon dioxide emissions for this product. So this is really our forerunner for how we can make manufacturing greener today. The next generation of products will also be on the next generation of aircrafts, and we estimate that they will come to the market somewhere around 2035. But that means that we need to be ready in a couple of years with the right technology, the right material, and most important of all, the right competence, the right people. And do we have a strong market ahead, Alex?
I think so. We think so. Thank you. We always talk about all the investments we are making throughout the world. We are expanding our business, we're building new workshops, we're finding new technologies, and that's because we believe that the future for flying is bright. If you look at this graph, we see previous generation, current generation, and next generation. So by 2050, we expect the fleet to double in size. But of that fleet, only about 5,000 planes something is going to be aircraft that is currently flying. The rest of them is yet to be produced. So we are going to see more aircraft on the market than we have ever seen before, and we will have to produce more aircraft than we have ever produced before. So we're shaping up the business to be able to find new ways of manufacturing in a more efficient way, less resources, new types of material where we are not as constrained by the situation in the world, and finding new ways of manufacturing efficiently. So is this just us being an opportunistic company and hoping that the world will be looking like this? The underlying market for this is this picture. So in this picture, you can see that we have Sweden, United States, United Kingdom, and so on. These are economies where people are flying more than two trips per year per person. But we also have huge economies like China, India, Brazil, where people aren't even flying once a year. So we believe that when the world is growing and people are getting more disposable income, it is possible for them to go on vacation and explore the world, just like we in Europe and the US have been doing for the past 30 years. So when people get more income and want to see the world, that means we need more flights, more people in aircraft, and be able to connect the world even more than we do today in new markets. So with that, we do believe that there's a lot of work to be done. We need a lot of skilled people. And if you want to get a deep dive into what we have right now in our pipeline, you can check the QR code, but we're always looking for people. We need mechanical engineering people, product development, software development. AI and analytics is a buzzword, but it is happening. We are trying to use it, and we are developing stuff with AI all the time. And finance and HR as well. We need people across the business to help us grow. So if you don't know what you want to study yet, then please take a look at the careers page and try to find something that suits you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. So everyone at home, please ask your questions in the Q&A. But in the meanwhile, I have, of course, also prepared some because I'm a very curious person. So first of all, how long have you've been working at GKN 7 years?
Yeah.
What about you?
3.5 years.
3.5 years. So how would you, we can start with you. How would you describe the atmosphere at GKN?
I think it's great, especially in Trollhättan. It's a company where people have worked for 20 plus years. People know each other. It's easy to reach out and try to jump on a project and get some help. So I really enjoy it. It's great.
Yeah. What about you?
I can only echo what you're saying, but I also would like to add the innovation, because everybody is very passionate about what they're doing, both for aircraft, but also the engineering piece. It's so much ideas, so much energy, and you can really go anywhere and ask any question and you will get a really good answer back.
And it really says something about a company if people have been working for a long time. It really says something about the atmosphere, and it's a good employer. So have you guys had any, you said it's a global company, you mentioned. Have you had any experience going abroad for work? Or before, yeah.
So I joined GKN as a global graduate, meaning that we start in Sweden for 12 months and then you go abroad for 6 months. So I did a stint in our factory in San Diego, but I actually built up the factory in Malaysia. So I had a pretty good commute between Singapore and San Francisco for a while.
So you're ahead in the statistics there.
Oh yes, I will leave that. But that's also what I think is so much fun working with a global company, because you learn a lot about different cultures, you get to travel, and you realize they were all the same but very different when it comes to making business. And that's what makes it so fun, to mix all those people and really build something new.
Yeah. What about you? Have you traveled for work any?
Yeah, so I was also part of the Global Grad program, and that is of course a great opportunity to see the world. You get to see the UK and Netherlands and the US. So I was working on the East Coast in Newington, Connecticut, but as a part of that rotation, 6 months, I worked on the rollout of our machine visualization software. So I worked all through the US to try and get machines up and running and visualizing them and their machine time. But I would say we both have been in the Global Grad program, but even if you join a company outside the program, there's great opportunities to travel. We have a lot of customers and suppliers in the US. So if you really want to have a job where you travel a lot, there's definitely opportunities.
So would you say that the atmosphere even here in Trollhättan, is it as international as the company?
I would say yes. Our corporate language is English, and we have experts from across the world in Sweden. Yeah.
That's good to hear. And the program you both mentioned, is that, how do you apply? Is it like a job? Do you just apply for a regular job, or how does that work?
Yeah, so it's a regular job, but you need either a bachelor certificate or a master's. And then we usually have it open from December until actually this time of the year. And then it's a regular interview, and there's tests, and then you start for 12 months and plus 8 more months abroad. And you can all tailor it to your needs and interests.
That's a really good experience. So that's obviously a great testament to how GKN works with career development, like early in the career. But would you say that this is also reflected when it comes to like later on? Is there a lot of career development opportunities at GKN?
Yeah, I would say so. There are programs throughout the business that you can apply for if you want to go into a manager role or try something new. There's also opportunities to try new stuff or be on projects that isn't really in your role, but you want to try something new. So I think there's a lot of opportunity to try and develop as a person.
Yeah, I can only agree. And we learn at the job every day because that's part of our core values as well, to be innovative and to really own our own knowledge and development. So there's so many people out there that will support you and provide you with the means to take classes or go into communities and learn about AI, even though you're not schooled in that. So it's a lot of fun.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
So I see we have gotten a couple of questions. So first of all, I forgot to mention it earlier. The session will be recorded and it will be posted afterwards. But everyone who has attended and have gotten the invite will get a link afterwards. So you can look back if you forgot to listen or if you want to hear anything on repeat. So we also got a question about materials. The materials themselves, are they sustainable, or what kind of impact do they have?
It's a really good question because we use metals, and especially titanium are not environmentally friendly because it takes a lot of energy to, first of all, dig them out from the earth and then make sure we can use them. That's why we're working really hard to minimize the amount of material we use for every product. And then also moving forward, we are optimizing our product designs to make sure we can design the product as smart as possible to make it as light as possible, because that will also make sure that we can lower the emissions since we use less fuel in the aircraft. So the materials itself, yes, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But we're trying to use as little as possible to do the job.
Yeah, that sounds like a good solution as of now. We've got another question. Let's see if I can try to boil it down. It's quite long. Is there an opportunity for an internship at GKN? I think it's the gist of it. If you're a student from another country specifically.
It's a kind of tricky question to answer because, yes, you can apply for an internship across the world. In Sweden, since we're also working with the Swedish Air Force, we do have special requirements for what kind of citizenship you can have. But across the business, we can always supply something.
Okay, I understand. That's reasonable, I think. So, but in general, you mentioned that you have a lot of different jobs open, engineers and stuff like that. Is there anything like in the general areas, if we have students thinking about coming to Sweden to study, the general areas, what is the best areas to study to work at GKN in the future?
I think it's broad. We need people everywhere, but of course, mechanical engineering. Now, software development and AI is going to be a hot topic for a while.
Yeah.
So computer science.
Production engineering to make sure we can use smarter processes, automate in a higher degree. And I will really like to echo data engineers because that's what I'm looking for in all of my teams. So please help out.
And then, of course, I mean, material engineering, and we have a lab on site. So, I mean, it's broad, but the usual sort of STEM people. Yeah.
Yep.
Do you also, because I think in Sweden in general, it's quite common to get, it's easier to get a job if you're in engineering, you speak English, because a lot of the engineering companies do work in English, as you do. Is there also a possibility to work at GKN with, for example, finance or business background and also have international background?
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I wanted to hear. So you mentioned that you're building a new site, a new factory here locally. Will that open up new work opportunities? Do you need to hire a lot of new people for that, or how will that work?
Yeah, so we need more people and a different kind of skill set. So this business unit will be focused on, additive manufacturing, 3D printing. So that will require different set of mechanical engineers and especially more software engineers because we're producing lots of data, images, and videos from all of our processes. And all of our processes are really long. Printing something takes 2 or 3 days. So we want to know if something goes bad directly so we can really adapt, as you mentioned earlier, to come to that stage where we can adapt machining. So that requires a lot of mathematics physics. So it's a new type of skill set and more people, of course.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So if you're a student, like if you are currently a student, what type of opportunities is there to work together with GKN?
I know we have projects from GKN together with University West in courses where you can work with GKN. We also have the co-op programs where students come and do their skill on site for a while and work as part of their education. And then right now, I think we have some 35, 40 master thesis students that currently started at our business and do their master thesis through the spring. So I think we're always having projects going on, and there's great opportunity if you have a topic you want to work on to reach out.
Yeah, that sounds great. So if a student wants to, like after their studies, they want to come work at GKN, so what in general, of course, I understand like an internship or a thesis project will better their chances of getting a job maybe at GKN. What other tips would you have that would better a student's chances of getting a job at GKN?
I would say show your passion. Why would you like to come work with us? Why are you passionate about either our company mission, aerospace, sustainability, whatever it is? Make sure that shines through. We're looking for people. Secondly, skills.
Yeah. So is there any opportunities to work part-time, or is it only full-time like internship opportunities you offer?
In general, I would say it's full-time positions. There are internship versions during your studies, but most of it is full-time in some way.
I would say so.
So we got a question about your background. So what kind of education background do you have? We start here with Amanda.
So I'm actually a mechanical engineer. So I studied mechanical engineering and a master's in production engineering. And so my specialty is robotics and automation. But then I did my master's in the US, in Seattle, where we have Boeing, Microsoft, and Amazon. So I realized pretty quickly that, hey, I want to work with digitalization in aerospace. So once I got to GKN, I learned at the job, basically, about IT, how to program, and about analytics. And that's what I've been doing my whole career.
That's nice.
And I studied in Luleå, northern Sweden. Studied industrial engineering and management with a master's in innovation and strategic business development. But just like Amanda, when I got to GKN, I also found a passion for data and being able to answer business questions with data. So I've gone more into the coding and learning to code and databases and such, and use it in my job every day. So if you need something to do in your spare time, programming is definitely my tip for you.
That's a great tip, and it sounds like you both like found your very specific passion quite early and are able to work with it. So that's quite amazing, actually. So we got in a question about logistics. You mentioned it's a bigger and bigger issue globally. Is that do you have people working at GKN within the area of logistics and supply chain?
Yes, and it's
a lot maybe.
Many people are working, and it's a huge challenge for us, both globally but also locally, to make sure we can ship products, we can get the right raw material, we work with the right partners. So yes, it's highly needed, and also we see a huge development with our background using data and data-driven to make sure we can predict our supply chain, so we can stabilize our flows across the sites and the production.
Sounds very relevant due to the times. I see we got a question about like softwares and skills specifically. This might be difficult for you to answer, so maybe the general answer to what type of like programs you need and what type of skills you will need to get during your education is already answered in the course plan. Since GKN is a huge part of our program development, and many of our researchers and teachers and program managers work closely with GKN, I would say that this input is already put into your education. So the skills you will need, you will get during your education. Or do you have anything specific to add relating to what kind of skills or softwares you use a lot? Or
I think if you go to university and you do a program at University West, you will get the skills you needed to learn the software if you learn the craft behind it. So less software specific and more skill specific, I'd say.
And we always supply a senior mentor when it comes to coding or programming to make sure we can onboard every junior programmer as well. Because we know today what we use, which languages and programs, but then we know for sure that will be different tomorrow and the day after that.
Very agile.
Very agile.
So to speak. So this is a very aircraft specific question, but what are the improvement features and adjustments that have been done to ensure safety of aircraft recently, maybe?
I mean, there's a lot. And I'd say it's also sort of goes both ways. There's a lot of great ideas out there, how you could make it more efficient to fly. But we also need to ensure that we always are safe. And the most important thing is that we get our passengers safely to their destination. So it's a thin line. You need to stay both innovative and agile, but also make sure that we are always having safety as our top one priority.
That's reasonable, I would say. It's a reasonable compromise.
Yeah.
Which CAD tools do you use for mechanical engineering program and development projects?
So we are heavy users of NX, so the Siemens version of CAD. But if you know CAD, the methodology, we will teach you the basics and the specific software.
Yeah, that sounds good. So you live here in Trollhättan and you commute.
Yes.
So let's start with how is it living here? Because a lot of the students listening will actually be moving here, of course. It's quite difficult to commute from a different country to study.
Indeed.
So how is it living in Trollhättan?
I like it. I'm obviously from here, but I enjoy Trollhättan. It's a cozy town to live in. There's a lot of different areas. If you want to live in the countryside, you want to live in the town. If you live in Trollhättan, it's also easy to go to Gothenburg if you don't want to go from there every day. So I think it's a good town if you want to have most of the things you can find in a big city, but also sort of the coziness of a small town and nature and waterfalls. So it's a nice area. Plenty of stuff to do.
Yeah, it's easy to move around within the city. Everything is closer by. And you commute.
Yep.
I do too, unfortunately, in this situation. So how does that work? You live in Gothenburg, which is the second largest city in Sweden.
Yeah, so I commute by train every day. And it takes me approximately maybe 40 minutes to get on the train. And then we have buses that goes to all our factories, which is in really close proximity when the trains arrives. So there's a lot of people that commute. And it works really well.
That's actually a very smart solution, I would say. Would you say that Trollhättan, you live here, it's quite small, 60,000 people, I would say. Extremely small if you compare it to other huge countries. But it's not that small. I really need to say 60,000 people city in Sweden has the best infrastructure anyway. So, but would you say that the atmosphere, because we have this international big company, one of the biggest employers in Trollhättan, we have international students, would you say that it's easy to move around being an international in Trollhättan?
I hope so.
Yeah, of course, you might not know, but
but I think if you move here for the university, I mean, you have a bunch of student things you can go to in the evenings and hang around. I see students in town all the time in their overalls and student clothes. So I think so. I think it's a town where you can easily get around and you're close to everything. So in that sense, it's easy to move here and sort of get to know people.
Yeah. And I would also say all three of us are testament to Swedes speak English.
We all do.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's very easy that way to get around. So if we have any final questions, let's see if we can view them. No stress, Maddie. So, do you hire robotics and automation engineers at GKN?
Oh, yes, we do.
It was, I would have guessed yes. What is the chance a chemical engineer with a project management, supply chain management background could get employed?
think is good. One of my friends and colleagues through the grad program studied chemical engineering, and he focused on the flow, which is also what happens when air goes through a jet engine. So I think there are a lot of educations out there that you don't really think about as aerospace, but when you take the skills you learn and apply them to aerospace, it makes sense. So I think it's a great education to have. Yeah.
We also have a question if you have a background in sustainable development, which is not necessarily an engineering program. It's more like about business and societal sustainable development. Do you still have an opportunity to work at GKN?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I sit together with the sustainability team and work with them. So we have a couple of people that is full on working on how we can get better and more sustainable as a company.
That's really nice to hear. So electrical engineering. Do you do a lot of electrical engineering at GKN?
Maybe not here in Sweden, but we have sister sites that are fully focused on electrical engineering. And here I would say it's mostly for our defense programs where we do the full engine, but it's not in that wide sense as our sister company in the Netherlands, for example.
It's not the biggest area specifically here in Trollhättan?
Yeah.
Okay, and we have a couple of programs focused on automotive engineering, which I would say is quite general still. Would you guess that you get the right skills to work at GKN if you have an automation background, automation engineering?
I would say yes. It's a lot about simulation and again product development, and also on the software side, I have several people in my team that comes from automotive, and we value different backgrounds because that brings diverse perspectives. So it's not only aerospace specific education that we want to incorporate into our staff.
So we have someone who say that they can't find vacancies. Is it a user error or is it currently not hiring?
When I checked last week, there were vacancies, but it could be, I don't know if the link is doing something weird when you scan it or something, but otherwise Google GKN and go to the careers page, I would say.
So there should be vacancies. Google GKN career and you should be able to find some. That's easy to happen. To the presenters, I understand with a data science background, it's possible to get a job at GKN, right? I'm curious, what kind of AI projects are you developing at GKN? So that's two questions in the same.
Question one, yes, it's very possible. Question two, we're using currently a lot of image recognition, both for quality defect detection. We are x-raying a lot of our processes to make sure that we have high quality welds, for example. And instead of a people using or a human using their eye to find that tiny pore, we're trying to use AI models instead. And the same goes for our 3D printing business. It's the same principle. We're building layers, maybe 40,000 layers. And then one operator is supposed to find each possible defect. And instead of using only humans, we want to make sure that we have an AI assistant to make sure we can do an efficient job. Yeah.
So do you offer opportunities for, we mentioned co-op and we mentioned thesis projects. Do you also offer internship opportunities?
Sometimes. I think it's more common that we offer thesis or summer jobs. Interns are if it's really specific. For example, the co-op.
Yeah. We got a question about if you're coming here to study. I can answer it. It's regarding if you're recommended to apply for a job directly. And maybe not GKN, because as we mentioned, most of the job opportunities are full-time. And that would, of course, make it difficult for you to study at the same time. But we have a lot of students that work part-time, like on the weekends and with other types of jobs during their studies. And then going, of course, to a full-time career within their field after the graduation. So that's my general recommendation regarding that. As an operations and supply chain student, what specific areas of specialization are sought after at GKN, and do we get an internship opportunity? So internship opportunities, more specifically to that program, I don't know on the top of my head, but what type of like supply chain areas do you work with at GKN?
Every possible area, I would say. I mean, since we're such a big global company, we have everything. And that's why it's so much fun, because you can really rotate across the company for decades and still find a new job.
And if someone has a background, there might be some repetition here, but we'll answer the questions, of course. So if you have a background that's not within engineering, it's more like sales, marketing, and business, are you still viable for applying for a job at GKN?
Yes, very much. I mean, we have our program teams who's working closely with the customer, and if you want to go into some other direction, there's plenty of opportunities, I would say.
Yeah, of course. We have a marketing team, we have finance, we have every function that a big company would need.
Yeah. See, we got a question about language. So let's ask that question again. So which, it was programming language more specifically. So do you have any like general programming language you use, or is it more relation to change?
It depends on the project. I mean, Python is always a language that is good to learn, but then it depends on what kind of project you're working on, I would say.
I would say we use all the big languages. Python, of course, C#, C++, SQL when it's applicable. It always depends on the product and the purpose.
Yeah, I understand. So I think with that, if you feel like you haven't gotten an answer to your question, feel free to email us at thestudy@universitywest.se. Mail. Did you have contact information as well?
There's on our website, you can see how you can contact us for different questions. And there's also lots of information about how it is to work, what kind of people you will find as your colleagues and such.
Yeah. So that's perfect. So if you feel like you still have some questions regarding working at GKN and the opportunities there, you will find all the relevant information and links and contact information on their webpage. And if you have any university-specific questions, feel free to ask us again during any time via the email on the TV screen. And with that, I would like to thank you guys so much for being here, and thank you so much for listening. And it will be recorded and posted online in a couple of days, so stay tuned if you want to listen again.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.